Welcome to Colin Brain versus the MCU.
Hello and welcome to our second bonus episode of Colin Brain versus the MCU. God, aren't we good to you lot? Yes, our first bonus episode, which as of recording has not been released yet, actually.
We always slip into this weird time loop thing. We never know what's going on. No one knows what's going on.
Feels like I'm in the quantum realm. Yeah. There's no such thing as time in this podcast. I have no idea what's going on. Like uploading an episode, I know I haven't even finished the intro, but even uploading an episode, just before I went on holiday last week, I think Rob accidentally posted an Instagram post about an episode that wasn't even out yet, and suddenly I was like, have I uploaded the right episode?
Shit, I didn't even know that.
It throws me because I'll get done editing one and we won't be posting about that one, and if I finish editing it before the next episode's out, I'm lost. My brain's mush.
I met up with fan of the show Finn recently, and he was like, I've been listening to the podcast today, and I was like, I don't even know what episode came out today, because we had recorded a different one the night before and shit. So but no. Anyway, mate, sorry, carry on.
No, it's all good. So yeah, as I was saying, that our first bonus on the Spider-Man 1 hasn't even been released yet, so we hope it was received well, because we're going to be continuing this little mini series of episodes, filling in some non-MCU related gaps for Colin. This is going to be really awkward if we've since been inundated with messages telling us to focus on the MCU. Have patience, guys. We'll get there.
Fuck you.
So,
it's our podcast.
Yeah, it's our podcast.
I'm not charging you for this shit. Shut up and listen.
Yeah.
Shut up.
Right.
Jared.
You've been
You
told.
especially.
Yeah. And Finn. Don't you go moaning. So yes, I guess it's time I should introduce my fellow co-hosts. Firstly, much like Harry Osborn at the end of this film, every time I look into a mirror, all I see is the reflection of my co-host telling me to do horrible, horrible things I haven't slept in weeks. It's Robert Trott. Rob, say hello.
Hello. That was a kind one, generally.
That was nice. As far as they go, yeah, that was quite a nice one.
He's always nice nice to you.
That's because he knows that if he isn't, he'll pay.
Yeah.
I'm appreciative.
We'll lose the man who's in the title of the podcast. And last but certainly not least, much like Joe's Pizza, Colin always comes with a 29-minute guarantee. I'm so sorry. It's Colin Brain. Colin, say hello.
Sorry, I was just drinking some water then. Hello.
Okay, how are we both?
Doing all right, man. I'm tired. It's late.
Yeah.
Well, it's not crazy late, but I had an early start, and I'm sort of like I'm just sort of buzzing on caffeine to try and get me through, so God knows how this is going to go.
The climate of this flat can only be described as muggy.
Oh, yeah.
Special kind of sort of swampy up in here.
I hope George is wearing trousers for this one, but with the heat at the moment, it wouldn't surprise me if he's
I've got shorts on that are not boxer shorts. I've got actual shorts.
How short?
Yes. Oh, wow. I wouldn't dare
imagine
try
like
and change.
Tobias Funke sort of denim hot pants.
Cut-offs.
Yeah.
Yes, so the weather has been extraordinarily hot as well, because I spent throughout that mini heat wave, I guess you could call it. I was in a caravan. You say muggy. Oh boy,
some sweaty gooches going on in there.
Sweaty gooches. I definitely needed cut-offs then, but it was a lovely little breakaway. Just 1 week, like I said, little caravan holiday, but I got to chill, not think about work for a week, which I haven't done in a long, long time. Got to take my daughter to the beach for the first time, dip her feet in the ocean for the first time too. All rather lovely. So we're recording this currently on a Tuesday night. But if you guys have remembered, which you didn't the other day, we're actually all meeting up on Sunday, aren't we?
We are, yeah. Oh, thanks for the reminder, because I needed that.
No worries. I don't even know if I've told you boys what time we're watching a film.
No, I was going to ask you that today.
We are watching a 2.5 hour. Well, actually, no. It's almost close to 3 hours.
You should never tell me the time. Now
it's 3
I don't
hours
want to go. Now I don't.
No,
want
you
to go.
do. You do.
Too late.
It's
I'm
a
busy,
3 hour
mate.
long.
Sorry, I'm busy on Sunday.
Bollywood movie, which I am taking Rob and Colin to the best cinema in the world, the Prince Charles Cinema, and yes, to see a Bollywood movie. It's a film that it's got itself quite a bit of popularity, and I swear by the time this episode releases, it will be even more popular. It contains some of the most insane and over-the-top ridiculous action I've ever seen, and I'm pretty sure Kevin Feige, he's going to be mad if he hasn't, has already contacted the director to get involved in a Marvel project. I haven't even mentioned the film. It's called RRR, or it's Triple R. I'm not entirely sure.
Okay. I've seen a over near where we met up with you, Rob, when you came over at East Finchley Station.
Oh, yeah.
Right outside there's a billboard with like 3 posters of maybe Bollywood films on it at the moment, and the middle one has got 3 R's across it. So, yeah, cool.
Yeah, so it's been getting quite a lot of buzz at the moment. So it is actually on Netflix.
Is it?
Yeah, it's on Netflix.
Huh.
And I decided to pop it on the other night, and it is one of my films of the year. It's stunning. And luckily, the Prince Charles Cinema, who only show the best films, are showing it. So we're off to see that this Sunday. So yeah, if you can, watch it on Netflix, not you boys. But if you can as well, try and catch it on the big screen.
What time are we saying on Sunday?
Yes, sorry, it's 11 a.m.
Oh!
That's all right.
Oh no, there's a big UFC event on. I'm going to be tired, mate, because I'm doing an all-nighter beforehand. So extra coffee.
Oh, he leapt out of his seat.
I was thinking to myself, well, George has got to travel from Thetford to London, so it'll probably be like maybe a 4 or 5 o'clock showing in the evening, early evening time. So I'll just have some sleep beforehand. But no,
11 a.m., sir.
Sweet. All right, all good.
This film will wake you up, I promise.
Sweet.
So before we jump into things as well, Rob does have a nickname for this week, and apparently I forgot to mention it in our first Spider-Man episode as well. So, Rob, if you could be so kind as to let us know, what is your Zoom name this week for both Spider-Man films?
So this week, I am Dr. Otto Coctavius.
Brilliant.
Classy as always. Or
I like that one.
Or Dr. Coctopus.
Oh.
However you want to put it.
Doc Cock.
Doc Cock.
Brilliant.
And rather fittingly, I didn't realise there was a theme developing, but when we did Spider-Man, I was J. Boner Jameson.
Oh, God help us.
Oh, Christ.
But the thing is, you guys at home are encouraging him.
Yeah, stop.
Yeah, like someone actually tweeted in the other day saying, what was Rob's nickname? Because I keep forgetting to mention it.
Well, you're just not quite up to scratch on the hosting these days, are you, man?
I know, I've gone stale.
Yeah. That's what the people want to hear about.
It is, apparently. Speaking of the people, I threw it out on our Twitter just before recording. I maybe should have given a little bit more notice that we are recording a little episode tonight, one of our bonus episodes. And if anyone wanted to tweet in maybe some questions to either all of us or just to Colin, and I've got a couple of questions here, boys, if you wouldn't mind firing them your way.
I love it. Let's go.
So Mark Small wants to know, will we be discussing the MCU TV shows at any point? And when we are watching the films for this podcast, what's our go-to snack or drink? So, Mark, I'll start off by saying, yes, we are going to do the MCU TV shows, most definitely. But then I'll throw the snack and go-to drink to you boys.
Well, I've got an answer for this.
Go home, man.
So if it's a special occasion and I've been able to source them, I will have a can of root beer and coffee nut M&Ms, which, if you've not had them, I think I get lost.
Coffee M&Ms?
Yeah, I get lost when I first tried these because it was for my lovely wife bought them for me for a birthday, part of my birthday present. It was during the pandemic, can't remember what birthday, but I genuinely got misty-eyed when I tried one and went, I didn't think over the age of 30 I'd have a new favourite sweet. So if I'm going for imported, if I'm having an American theme, it has to be root beer and coffee nut M&Ms. But if those aren't available, Dr. Pepper, peanut M&Ms. Bosh.
Oh, he's on the M&M vibes. Okay.
I love an M&M.
Wow.
Colin, yourself.
I mean, if you'd asked me this question 10 years ago, it would have been Snickers and Dr. Pepper straight up.
Oh, you were a Dr. Pepper
dude.
fiend.
I mean, like, I haven't had a fizzy drink since 2014, just because it got to the point where it was becoming a problem. Like, it was like I was hunting down fizzy drinks. If I, like, you know, I'd find an excuse to leave the house just so I could walk past somewhere that would sell a can of Coke so I could just be guzzling it down. So, yeah, I've sort of I've reined that in as I've gotten older. But that would have been my go. And a Snickers bar was just the one. But nowadays, I mean, shit, it's going to sound so boring now. I love a good sparkling water.
That is boring.
Yeah. Cock.
Even Rob in the background. Yeah.
But what about when I'm watching these? I mean, I fucking love coffee. But snack wise,
it's gonna be something like kale chips, isn't it?
No, I was gonna say
beetroot.
No, fuck off. I was gonna say like you chop up an apple and then you put some peanut butter on the slices, and that's good. But that's no one wants to hear about that shit. That's way too like popcorn. Maybe I like a bag of popcorn.
Are you a sweet or salted guy?
I used to be just sweet straight up. If I went to the cinema, it would be sweet. Then I started getting into sweet and salty over the last couple of years. And then recently I was like, you know what? I might just try salted, because I don't think I've ever just had salted. It's always just, and I quite like just the salted, to be honest. So I feel like I'm probably swaying more towards that now.
Cool.
And maybe an Oreo, double stuffed Oreo.
I don't know if Colin's watched this. Mr. Robot.
I haven't.
Have you watched that show? I know George hasn't watched all of it yet. But since there's a moment where he goes to the cinema, it's like a flashback, and his dad buys a big thing of popcorn, a big thing of peanut M&Ms, and just shakes them over the popcorn and like shuffles them. And I really want to do that. I haven't got around to doing it yet. But the idea of rooting through popcorn and then picking out M&Ms, yeah, it's good.
I do it with Maltesers, and I got that from the film Whiplash, when the lead character in there goes to the cinema and he sits next to his dad, and his dad gets like a little bag of chocolates and pours them over the popcorn too. And I was like, I'm trying that. And like the sweet and salty popcorn mixed with some Maltesers was absolutely amazing. Yeah. So I'm usually a popcorn guy when I watch these as well. Working in a cinema, you think I'd be sick of the stuff, but I'm not yet. But I'm also a big fan of chocolate covered pretzels for the movie.
Pretzels are the worst.
Oh, cover them in chocolate.
Yeah, even naked, I love a pretzel. The pretzel being naked.
Stacey loves naked pretzels.
There you go. Okay, so we do have another question here from Rob Lindsay.
I like these questions. This is
cool.
It's
cool. We'll try do it more often. So this is from Rob Lindsay, and he says, this is for all three of us. We've now met soldiers, scientists, genius billionaire playboy philanthropists. But who were our heroes, superpowered or otherwise, when we were growing up? Whose posters did we have on our walls when we were kids? Great question.
Oh, that's good. That's a good question.
Really lovely question.
Yeah, that's a nice one. What was that guy's name?
That's Rob Lindsay. He was actually the guy that gave us the idea to do the Guardians playlist as well.
Oh, good man. I like that. Yeah, keep them coming in, man. I appreciate it. Who did I look up to as a child?
Well, I can definitely tell you I can remember having two posters on my bedroom wall. Maybe the first two posters I put up.
Lucy Pinder.
And it was two females. Maybe not out of attraction. Well, one was. I'd be scared if the second one was. So the first one was Sarah Michelle Gellar as Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
Nice.
I had her poster up on my wall. And the second one was from Tomb Raider 1, Lara Croft. And very, very blocky and a weird character shape for PS1. But I definitely remember having her poster up on my wall as well. And yes, so super powered or otherwise, I guess they're both definitely Buffy Summers was. So yeah, they were the posters I had up in my wall for sure.
What about heroes though? Like people you looked up to? That's a different thing. Because posters, Most of my childhood, I had an Ipswich Town Football Club themed bedroom. So it wasn't really posters, but it was very much, there was a lot of Ipswich Town Football Club crests. I'm not a football fan anymore, so I know Ipswich are doing terribly bad, so don't need to try and rinse me about it because I couldn't give a fuck any less. Let's have a think. Posters. I have a vague memory of having a Spice Girls poster, and because I was big into Baby Spice, like she was as a kid. Like I think I may have even kissed the poster a few times, like before bed. You know, it was one of those.
No, I was a Sporty Spice fella.
Sporty Spice was it?
I was.
Yeah, no, really. But as far as like heroes, or I don't know if I really had any heroes, but I was a big fan of David Blaine as a kid.
Wow,
so
yeah, of course.
That would be like someone who I would obsess over, like his street magic and all of his weird. I went to like when he was hanging in the box over the Thames. I went up there a couple of times from Thetford. I was there when he came out of it. But yeah, like I don't know about heroes. I mean, I was big into WWF at the time, so like the Hardy Boys were big for me. The Rock, Stone Cold, like they were the dudes that I like. I don't know about looked up to, but probably not the best male role models looking back now. But
well, no, I remember every Saturday morning you SmackDown.
Oh hell yeah, and
on
Raw
Sky
on
Sports.
Yeah.
What about you, Rob?
See if you can guess mine.
Oh, here we go. What now?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought you were going to give us like a clue or something.
No. I'm just thinking you particularly would probably, the amount I go on about something I was obsessed with as a kid, you could probably guess.
Surely one of you guys, it's going to be like some sort of superhero, wouldn't it?
Superman.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
Christopher Reeve.
Superman? Okay.
So my earliest memory is watching Christopher Reeve as Superman in Superman 1 and 2. They were kind of indistinguishable when I was a kid. I used to just watch them both back to back. And me and my dad watching that pretty much every weekend when I was a kid. So he was like my absolute hero. When Christopher Reeve had his accident and was paralysed, my mum actually, I got home from school, my mum had to like take me aside and explain it. Like, this has happened. But that was my sort of biggest... And again, it sort of was the thing that got me into film, really, and the magic of cinema. Like George said in one of our earlier episodes, I believed he could fly.
Sure.
And it still creates something magic in me when I see it, even this many years on. So yeah, I think Superman, poster-wise, I had lots of posters of The Simpsons. So I guess Matt Groening.
I had the big character one. Where it was hundreds and hundreds of characters. Yeah, I remember that one. You just reminded me.
Yeah, there was some Simpsons posters up in the house. I remember, I think one on my dad's door that had like Homer Simpson in a towel saying, "I'm singing in the shower, washing my butt" or something. Because wasn't that was like a little song in one of the episodes back in the day. Man, how good was early Simpsons when you were a kid? Jesus Christ! Talk about nostalgia.
Incredible. Yeah, stunning.
What about you, George? You said the posters, but what about like people that you kind of looked up to, or
I
like
don't really
heroes
know.
or idols or something?
I think Superman was definitely up there. Used to love like wrestlers as well. You say the Hardy Boys. I think for me it was is it the Dudley Boys or the Dudley Brothers or something like that?
No.
Oh, I was a massive fan of the Dudleys.
Get the table. Yeah, I
Get
love
the tables. Loved it.
Let's be real. The TLC matches when it was like the Dudley Boys, Hardy Boys, Edge and Christian. I think
Always classics.
Yeah,
Classics.
something else.
But also like musicians, I even from a very, very young age, I can always remember just constantly listening to Queen and Freddie Mercury really being on a pedestal for sure.
Oh yes, that Greatest Hits album.
Yeah,
that was,
exactly.
On rotation a lot in my house.
Yeah, I've got so many memories of it being played in the house and going for trips with the family. It was always on in the car as well and things like that, on little tape and things like that. So, yeah, in terms of music as well, that was a massive influence.
Same, yeah. My dad's CD collection was a big. I mean, it's not like a hero or an idol, but a lot of the music that I listen to now, even now, was from that CD collection.
For sure,
some great shit.
Cool. So a couple of good questions there. I will do some more. Maybe our next proper episode or maybe the bonus. Might stick it just to the bonus. We'll see.
Yeah.
The plan is always to keep these episodes rather short and sweet. Didn't work with the first episode. It might not work with this one either. So if you don't mind, shall we jump straight into the intro before jumping headfirst into the deep dive?
Let's go.
Let's go.
Do
man,
it.
yeah.
Let's do this. So, as mentioned previously in our Spider-Man episode, the first film broke tons of box office records, had an opening of $115 million just in the States alone. Pretty much the Monday after it opened, Sony Pictures greenlit Spider-Man 2 and announced it publicly that it would be released in just 2 years' time. So that's pretty tough to do. That's 2 years to write a script and design the film, shoot it and edit it. It's unheard of nowadays. So a screenwriter was immediately hired, a writer by the name of Michael Chabon. He was known to be more of like a screenplay polisher in Hollywood, even though he had like a successful career as a novelist. His draft hit the desk of Sam Raimi in September 2002. But this draft had Doc Ock as the villain, but he was much younger in this script, around the same age as Peter Parker. It was also revealed that Octavius was actually the creator of the genetically altered spider from the first film. And in this film as well, the fusion in his tentacles was slowly killing him, and he wanted Spider-Man's blood and spine, thinking it would cure him. Also, I guess you could call it a subplot, even though it does drastically change the film. Harry Osborn and the Daily Bugle put out a $10 million price on Spider-Man's head, which meant that every time Spider-Man is out saving people in New York, he has to also put up with some of the citizens actually trying to fight him himself too. A returning Sam Raimi didn't love the script. So he hired a guy.
He had to shake your bonbon, shake your bonbon.
Oh my God. Yes, you could say that, of course. So what he did do was hire a fella named Alvin Sargent, who was known for creating screenplays pretty much all of his life. I think he was around 80 years old at this point, pretty much retired. But Sam Raimi managed to get him to come in and do another draft of the script this time. But Raimi this time gave some instructions to Alvin Sargent. This time he said he wanted to explore Peter's positive and negative aspects of his chosen path to remain as Spider-Man, and to have the film ultimately ending with Peter figuring out how to be happy as this heroic figure. Raimi also gave Alvin Sargent copies of the Spider-Man storyline or drafts of comics entitled If This Be My Destiny from 1966. And he also gave him a series of comics from 1967 entitled Spider-Man No More. He also said that Doc Ock should remain as the villain for this film because he was definitely the most visual villain for Raimi, and he felt that he could maybe have a lot of fun with that, but also felt like he was a good physical match for Peter Parker too. Now, considering this was all happening around 2000, 2001, it shows just how long I have been a bit of a nerd, because I can actually remember reading about this next part. So Tobey Maguire had been suffering from a pre-existing back condition for a while now. And around a year before filming, it had become pretty unbearable, which actually led to him backing out of Spider-Man 2. So this led to one hell of a panic at Sony Pictures, who kind of begged for Maguire to come back. They even said they're happy to delay the film in order to allow him to get some help and recover. He still said no, which actually led to Sony Pictures hiring and officially announcing that playing Peter Parker in Spider-Man 2 would be Jake Gyllenhaal, who at that time only had a couple of films to his name at that point as well. Now, we don't know the ins and the outs really, but obviously this never came to fruition. But what we do know is that Maguire at one point set up a meeting with Sony Pictures. This was after they actually had hired Jake Gyllenhaal as well. He attended this meeting with his then girlfriend's father, who happened to be Ronald Meyer. He was the head of Universal Studios, and walked out of this meeting with a new $17 million salary and was Peter Parker again. So to be a fly or spider on the walls we'll never know actually quite what happened in that meeting. But whilst this was all being done, at the same time, they were casting Doc Ock as well. So 4 actors came in to speak for the part. Those actors being Ed Harris, Chris Cooper, Christopher Walken, and Alfred Molina. Obviously being announced in February 2003 that Molina had been cast, and immediately underwent quite a bit of physical training as Sam Raimi requested he bulk up for the role. They even actually designed a new camera for this film. It was eventually called the Spider Cam. It allowed the filmmakers to express more of a view of Spider-Man's view of the world whilst he's out swinging around New York. This camera, they could drop it from 50 stories, and every single one of its movements were controlled by motion control, meaning someone didn't have to drop out of these buildings with the camera too. And then using the footage they shot from this camera, by literally swinging this camera in and around the skyscrapers of New York, they could then superimpose Spider-Man on top of those images. I'm now realising this maybe could have been my trivia, but never mind, we'll keep going. And so somehow, on time and on budget, Spider-Man 2 opened on June 30th, 2004. It grossed $40.4 million on its first day, beating the original film's first day of $39.4. It was said that record would be unbeatable. It's $40.4 million in one day. Well, just 1 year later, almost to the day, Star Wars Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith, opened to $50 million, an extra $10 million on top of that. But Spider-Man 2 also became the quickest film ever at that point to reach $200 million. It broke the record for the biggest Wednesday of all time, the biggest Monday of all time. The biggest Monday of all time, they actually held that for quite a while. That was only just beaten in 2015 with yet another Star Wars film, that being The Force Awakens. And so with another hit on their hands, Sony did exactly the same. And just days after its release, it greenlit Spider-Man 3. Again, to come out in exactly 2 years' time. Although that one didn't go anywhere near as smoothly as the previous 2. Next time, baby. Which brings us to the question that, luckily, I'm nowhere near as nervous to ask in these bonus episodes. I'm terrified every time I ask you this question, but this time in the bonus, I'm quite chilled about it. Colin, what did you think?
I really, really enjoyed this one.
It's a good one, isn't it?
This is good shit. I enjoyed this a lot. This made me feel like a kid again watching this one.
Yeah.
It's so good.
Mm-hmm.
So good.
Boom. Rob, how was this rewatch for you?
These rewatches were very good because I watched it 3 times with 3 different audio commentary first.
You are insane, sir. So yeah, we were actually
that
meant to.
trumpet's going to be going mad for the next hour.
I'm going to be good. I'm going to be
Turn
good.
your volumes down.
Yeah. After ruining George's trivia, the last bonus one with my tirade of them, I'm curating them. I'm picking out.
You must
the
have a
facts.
lot to choose from.
Yeah. There was a commentary with Sam Raimi, Tobey Maguire, Avi Arad, who we may get to, bit of a interfering producer, as I've heard. A co-producer, Grant Curtis, who's worked for a lot of Sam Raimi stuff, and it was recorded when the movie opened in 2004, wasn't it, I think? Yes, there was that. There was a technical one that was all about how they did many of the effects and stuff like that. And there was another one for the extended edition of the film, which is called Spider-Man 2 Cash Grab. Spider-Man 2.1, which has 8 minutes of additional footage, which maybe we'll get into later if those particular scenes linked to it come up. But
yeah, definitely.
It's great, and let's be honest.
Who does the commentary in the third one?
So it's Laura Ziskin, who's another one of the producers, and I believe it's Grant Curtis again. They don't do Blu-rays like this anymore, boys.
No. I used to love commentaries.
Do they even still release things physically on Blu-ray?
Yeah.
They do, yeah? Okay, fair enough.
But I think what is impressive as well, to really dial down into the physical media nerdery, because we got time, is on each of those commentaries, you can have them with either the subtitles for the film or the subtitles for the commentary. Sometimes you don't get either on newer Blu-rays. Yeah.
See, I'd want the subtitles for the commentary.
Yeah, I was much impressed by the Spider-Man 2 Blu-ray.
Good. So yeah, like I said to you, Colin, this film is a bit of a beast. I really, really enjoyed our rewatch of the first Spider-Man a few weeks back.
Me too.
You know, this takes everything that worked in that film and just elevates it here.
Dude, how frequently is a sequel better than the first? This might be better than the first one for me.
Oh, I think it is.
I think it is, right?
Yeah.
But that's not that common, where the sequel outweighs the first.
I mean,
I don't think it's not in my history of film watching
it's
anyway.
Rare. It happens sometimes, but it's
Terminator
rare.
2?
Yes. Oh, God, we could be here all day.
Yeah, sorry.
Oh, my God.
This is turning into the longest bonus episode ever.
Yeah, like I said, it just takes everything from that first film and just elevates it. They managed to also pack a hell of a lot of drama into this film. I mean, damn, do they put Peter Parker through the ringer in this one. And spoilers for the deep dive, but it also contains genuinely what I think may be the best fight scene in any comic book movie. It's such a confident movie as well. Those initial record-breaking weekends and box office, you can only imagine what that does to you as an actor or as a director. So everyone's going into this knowing they can make a good film. And they really try and top themselves with a sequel, and I think they do it. So, shall we go into a little bit more detail?
Yes.
I'm ready.
Let's do this. So, 2 years after becoming Spider-Man, Peter Parker is estranged from both his love interest Mary Jane Watson and his best friend Harry Osborn, and discovers that his Aunt May is also facing eviction. He finds himself also suffering temporary but recurring losses of his powers, often in life-threatening situations. So we'll stick to some of the big questions here first. So, Colin, much like the first one, how was Tobey Maguire in this for you? Was it his heart in this as much as the first, or was he just in it for that $17 million payday?
No, I think his heart was in this one, man. I think, like you said a minute ago, everything sort of dialed up a few notches on this one. And I'll tell you what, that young little guy that I saw in, Civil War a couple of weeks back, he's got some big boots to fill after watching this one, because Tobey Maguire is my Spider-Man. He is my Spider-Man. Yep, so we've got to see how that changes over time. I don't care that he's too old for the character in terms of, but he was so good in this.
He's very, very good in this. You're also the only person in the world that refers to today's current Spider-Man as that little fella. He's a household name now, and I love it that he's that little fella to you.
I'm just not. I don't keep up with. I remember I went and saw. Is it Dune or Dune? I don't know how you say it.
Mm.
And I remember saying to you, that was great. And you were like, you do realise that most of the guys in that are big Hollywood stars. And I'm like, I didn't know who any of them were. I just enjoyed the film. I do not keep up with that anymore. It's crazy.
So
yeah, that little fella's got some work to do in my eyes.
I agree. Rob, what about you? Does he fulfill the potential shown in that first movie?
I think so. Like Colin said, everything he does is much more confident. And I think because Sam Raimi's more confident to really put Peter through the ringer.
Oh, yes.
I think that adds to it. Because he's dialing everything up, it allows Tobey Maguire to sort of lean into things more. Mm-hmm. And it makes it so much more comic book and so much more, interesting, I think.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think Tobey Maguire, I mean, in full agreement with you boys. I think he's great in this. I did say in the first one that he was maybe slightly too old for the role. Colin, you said it doesn't bother you at all. Obviously, with it being set just 2 years later, I'd kind of say that remains the same. Thank God they've moved away from all that high school business and stuff like that. And he's clearly at college or university now, even though he's still clearly way too old.
Yeah.
Then there's that moment after the train fight scene where he's unconscious and doesn't have his mask on, and it's a wonderful sequence. There's a wonderful moment, but that one guy is just he's just a kid.
He's just a boy,
clearly a middle-aged man just laying there, surrounded by everyone else. But he's very good in this. He takes things to 11 at times, and definitely gives us some good meme material.
Pizza time.
But Yes, yeah, exactly. But yet again, like that moment in the train sequence where he's trying to hold onto the webs, in an effort to try and stop the train. How he didn't give himself an aneurysm filming that scene, I have no idea. There's also that moment, towards the end, I think in the end fight scene where it looks like Mary Jane is going to be like seriously hurt or killed, and screams their name, and Raimi, for a choice, I guess, decides to do this extreme close-up on Tobey Maguire's face, and he really goes for it in that moment there. It feels like I'm shitting on his performance. I'm definitely not. I think he's great, just maybe not nuanced, I'd say. But the film isn't trying to be nuanced.
No, I think with Sam Raimi directing it, it just works. Mm-hmm. Like, it's a great combination.
Yes.
Sam Raimi's just so good at pulling that stuff off where, for me anyway, it doesn't make me cringe in the way that a lot of films do when they try and hit those sort of, those marks, I guess. I don't know what it is about him, but he's just got a way of...
touched on it as well. It's sort of that, it's a comic book movie, and it's that comic book style. So, when performances are dialed up to like 11, it doesn't matter because Raimi is clearly doing things with the camera as well. Like there's that moment with J. Jonah Jameson, we'll get onto him later as well, when Spider-Man steals the mask from his he does that thing where he looks up to the camera. Get you, Spider-Man. In any other film you'd be like, oh, what's going on here? But Raimi's having so much fun with the material.
That moment, he shakes his fist, and then Spider-Man swings through the front page of a newspaper, and he's swinging through the city, and then it's revealed that he's in the reflection of Doc Ock's glasses. As like a 5 to 10 seconds of film, that is ridiculously amazing.
Disgusting. Right, yeah, so good. So Harry Osborn, he's now head of Oscorp's Genetic and Scientific Research Division. He's now sponsoring a fusion power project by nuclear scientist Otto Octavius, who befriends and mentors Peter. James Franco returning as Harry Osborn again. Colin, does he improve upon his performance? Did they do Harry Osborn justice in this sequel?
Yeah, I mean, he definitely didn't. I don't think the improvement was so much shown in James Franco's performance as opposed to like Kirsten Dunst for me as MJ and Tobey Maguire, and even the woman who plays Aunt May. I thought she kind of turned up nicely in this one, but he's still cool. I don't really think I've got any sort of criticising thoughts on his performance, but to me, he wasn't really the sort of focal point throughout the film. He was just there in the background, and obviously what happens at the end. So you can always tell that there's that brewing thing happening.
For sure.
But yeah, he wasn't the highlight, let's put it that way for me.
Okay, same to you, Rob.
Yeah, I agree. He's like, you can tell they're sort of filling for now and building on stuff for, next time, baby.
Yeah, there was a lot of that, yeah.
But I think there's a few moments that don't work for me with him. I think he's perfectly fine. But then, like early on at his birthday party, there's this bit where he's sort of chatting to Peter, and he's 1 minute, he's like, happy birthday, buddy. And then we're almost in a jump cut.
So where's fucking Spider-Man?
Yeah.
He's like, she still loves you. And then 2 seconds later, he's like your friend the bug.
Yeah, I know.
It's like my birthday, mate.
Exactly. Give me a rest.
What are you doing? But he definitely gets some opportunities to dial it up to 11 as well. Like when especially in that moment where he introduces him to Otto, and he does the whole the Nobel Prize. And it's like sort of just dials it up. Kind of a thankless task, I think.
Yeah. My notes are very similar to yours, Rob. I don't think it's a secret that James Franco, isn't the greatest actor in the world. But like you've mentioned here, Rob, towards the beginning of the film, when he's clearly playing like the rich playboy, almost like a Bruce Wayne figure in a way, I thought, I don't think this performance is quite working. I thought he's playing it too smug, maybe too broad. But then I realised, like, maybe not. But if this is done on purpose, it kind of works perfectly. Because Harry in this film is essentially a scared kid in shoes that are way too big to fill. And as much as he can try and play up all of this bravado, we know he's like a duck on the water, essentially. You know, he's playing it as cool as possible. But you look a little closer, he's paddling as if his life depended on it. You know, and in a way, almost the opposite to Tobey Maguire here. I think he does like the smaller, more intimate stuff better. You know, when the script or the film requires him to play it big, I can kind of see the seams in his performance, I think. But then he really nails some of the smaller moments. Like, there's this one part where he tells Doc Ock to go get Spider-Man and, go through Peter Parker to do it. And he's so like consumed with revenge. He doesn't initially realize that he's also putting his best friend, or supposedly best friend, in danger. And just as Doc Ock is sort of vanishing from sight, he says, "Don't hurt Peter." I think he plays that moment quite wonderfully for me. I did like him in that moment.
And Doc's like, "What?"
Yeah,
just lobs a car at him.
He's off. Yeah.
Talking of, I'm sure we'll get to that moment, but there's a few bits of nonsense in this film that I generally forgive because it's so well done. You're having so much fun, you just go with it. But for example, when you said he's on the train and Tobey Maguire's brothers in their little cameo go, "We found this." Where?
Yeah.
He threw that off on the top of the train about, God knows, about 30 mile down the road.
Exactly.
But yeah, so there's that. And then there's, so Doc Ock is going to, right, what I need to do, he knows where Spider-Man is. I'm going to get some information out of Peter Parker. How should I go about it? Let's just blindly lob a car through the window at him.
Yeah. While he's having a coffee.
Which just skims his face, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's lucky he was Spider-Man. Otherwise, that is a bad plan.
You're not getting much information from him, are you?
There's a few bits like that, but I just remembered one more. And Doc Ock, this amazing scientist, and Peter, I have taken every step. This has been my life's work. He makes this whole thing of like the arms. I control them. They don't control me, and they're non-magnetic. Right. A key point he points out: does the experiment in a massive room surrounded by metal, and doesn't for a second think that's probably not a good
idea. Yeah, what genius this guy is.
So, Colin, let's talk the villain then. So, Alfred Molina as Dr. Octopus. How does he rank against Willem Dafoe, for example? Well, that's two very strong villains in a row.
Yeah, both very strong, but I think very different at the same time. I think Willem Dafoe was great, but he definitely was on the sort of hammier side, and he had a lot more of those moments. I did really enjoy him in it. But this dude was better, in my opinion. I think like the scene when he has dinner with Peter Parker, like before it all kicks off, and he just seems like a lovely person, like you see this human side of him, which I think is something that a lot of these films don't tend to show a lot of in the villains. You don't get to see him like that. And also, like, just talking visually, that villain, the arms, like the sort of creativity that you can then have in the action sequences. I just think, like, as far as villains go, he's up there for me. I if I had one piece of criticism, it would be that I would have liked to have seen a little bit more of the kind of back and forth between, where he's. But then I was thinking, but that's kind of what Willem Dafoe was in the first one.
Yes.
So it's like,
true.
would it have been too similar if they lent into that a bit? But that would be if I'm really trying to pick something negative to say. I thought he was fantastic as an actor. I thought, I don't really have much bad to say about it.
Wow, that's awesome. Rob, what about you? What's your thoughts on Otto Octavius?
I agree wholeheartedly with Colin. In those early scenes where he's having dinner and he is talking about love, and he's this sort of image of what Peter Parker wants. He wants to be able to settle down and pursue his scientist interests. And here's someone who's kind, and the whole, he says you're brilliant but lazy. That whole stuff, that whole scene is brilliant because he's so charming, like you said.
Yeah.
You really feel it when he becomes the monster.
Yeah.
Like the difference being that Willem Dafoe as Norman Osborn wasn't the best guy beforehand, and it dialed him up to the next level.
Yeah.
So I think, I love that Sam Raimi is sort of obsessed with these sort of tragic monsters. I can bet he loves the film Frankenstein.
Oh yeah, for sure.
I put money on it because he's obsessed with that.
Yeah, I think it also adds like another layer to Peter Parker as well, because he knows that he's going up against a guy that he's aware that this isn't actually him doing that. It's this thing that he's created. So that obviously adds another layer of like conflict, I guess, for Peter Parker throughout.
Most definitely. And I can definitely see why Raimi wanted him as the villain as well, because like Raimi said, visually he's fantastic, and Raimi does have a lot of fun with Doc Ock. But
how good is that? Like, just that shot when he's like going up. It's one of the first ones where you see, I know I'm doing this and we're doing a fucking audio podcast and I'm flapping my arms about. But it's the one where like he stood up on his back, metal fucking arms or whatever, and that scene, that shot is just like that's perfect.
There's some iconic shots in this film. For sure.
The hospital scene.
We will get to it. We will get to it. That needs its own discussion alone.
It does.
But yes, I think he completely works as a villain because I think you boys have already touched on it. You can almost sympathise with him in a way because we know it's the AI that's controlling him, and the Otto Octavius that we see is a wise, polite, and humane person, just with very bad jokes. But he also becomes quite a vicious villain too. You know, he has this end goal, this end game in creating this fusion power. But he doesn't care who he goes through in order to get what he wants. He's throwing things at people, whether it be cars, at Peter Parker. He's sometimes literally just throwing people to get them out of his way. I think his performance is up there with Willem Dafoe. They're two very, very different characters. I think Dafoe, as Green Goblin, really needed to go large with it, whereas
it was the mask though. The mask for that one was that knocked off too many points for me. If it was just more of his face and seeing actually Willem Dafoe, I think he would have probably been maybe the same, if not better. But I think that ruined it for me a little bit.
Yes, I completely agree. Whereas Alfred Molina can maybe afford to take it down a notch, and still make it work because he that way you can make Doc Ock a little bit more conniving, be sadistic and villainous without needing to chew through the scenery. And you know what? I think they've only Peter Parker and Otto. They've only known each other like a day before Otto gets turned into the villain. But in that short space of time, somehow they do a great job of creating this relationship between Otto and Peter. Peter's meant to have grown up with Norman Osborn, and in the first film there was like an attempt at like a father-son relationship or something like that. But I feel like the relationship and the mentorship was stronger between Peter and Otto in this film because they allow, I'm just repeating what you boys have said, they allow those scenes at the beginning to breathe, really. And, they have them talking about love and poetry. And yes, it doesn't propel the film or the plot forward, but it strengthens everything else that comes after it.
Character development.
100%.
Also, they have this whole sort of understanding. I think Peter even says like, I'm a big fan of your work. I've read your work on what was it he says, it's like nanotechnology or something. He says something, but he always establishes that he respects him as a scientist before he respects him as a man as well. So and
I guess with Willem Dafoe it was like his mate's dad, wasn't it, really?
Yeah for sure. So continuing at a hospital where doctors prepare to surgically remove Octavius's harness. Without the inhibitor chip, the now sentient arms defend themselves by killing the doctors. Octavius takes refuge at a harbour. Now corrupted by the arm's AI, he decides to retry his experiment and robs a bank to fund it. The Daily Bugle dubs the scientist Dr. Octopus. And as I just said, we really have to talk about this sequence, don't we? This is peak Sam Raimi, playing with all the toys in his toy box. Boys, where do we even start?
I want Rob to start because I'm sure he's got some audio commentary trumpets for us on this.
Audio commentary. Facts. So there's one particular moment that is very Raimi and very grim, when one of the doctors gets dragged along the floor and her nails bring up the linoleum. Linoleum. I can't say it. The floor.
The lino.
Yeah, the lino. In order to do that, they used a form of soft wax to make it appear like it was the flooring. And it's just so visceral.
Yeah.
It's just the chainsaw moment. A nice little nod to Evil Dead.
Yeah.
Yeah. I swear, wasn't there like a shard of glass going into someone's eye at one point? Which is very, very Sam Raimi. He loves the eyes, doesn't he?
Well, the whole sequence plays out like a horror movie, doesn't it? You know.
Oh, it's so like a B movie horror. It's so.
It's
good.
a relatively short sequence, but it's full to the brim of ideas. You know, it's references to loads of horror films in there. Most of them originating from Raimi's own filmography, anyway.
Yeah.
From the chainsaw moment, the POV of the arms attacking the doctors as well. You know, it's all wonderful, and there's also not a single note of score in that scene. We're in that room being forced to, you know, listen to every scream, every crack of the bone, and every sound of metal hitting flesh. Oh, it's excellent.
And considering it's like whatever the rating is on it, I guess it was like a
12A.
A 12A was it? Yeah, I mean, he did as much as he could with a 12A in that. That. Do you not think like that had some definite horror vibes going on?
Yeah. It's not gory at all, though. That's what's clever. And I like that the build-up is really great as well, because you know it's coming. You're just it's like a roller coaster. You're sort of getting to the top of that hill, and you see the boat where the doctor looks up, and the arm is no longer in the sort of winch, and he's like, "Oh, they put it back up there." Then like you know it's coming.
Yeah,
I
think the fact that it happens whilst the doc is asleep.
Yeah, that's a really unnerving shot, isn't it? Underneath him, with his eyes closed and his body just wiggling along. It's really unnerving.
And great storytelling, because it tells you from the off that he doesn't control it. Like,
and even just the design. Yeah, the design of like the sort of claw parts of the. I mean, what would we even call them?
The arms or tentacles,
I guess. Yeah, like there's so many moments of that are just proper horror, like popping up in the corner, opening up all of a sudden, and whatever sound design they put behind that, it really worked. It didn't sound like it was. Sometimes it didn't even sound mechanical. It sounded like there was like some sort of weird shrieking and like organic elements in the sound, which just added another layer of like, I guess, creepiness, really, which I never really thought you'd talk about in a Spider-Man film. But Sam Raimi's the man.
He's the man.
Yeah, he really is.
And also, Colin, with the Daily Bugle naming him Dr. Octopus, we got a comic book reference that surely you picked up on and understood.
I did. Yeah, the Doctor Strange one.
Oh my God, we've turned you into a geek. It's actually happening.
I know. I was like, yeah, I know who he's talking about.
I understand that reference.
Yeah, but Rob, you might be able to talk on this with your trumpets, but there must have been a heavy amount of practical effects in this film as well as CGI, because to me, it's held up so well.
Audio commentary facts. Yes, a lot of the arm shots for the tentacles were practical. There was puppeteer work done. Obviously in things where you can tell the moments that need CG. But whenever there were sort of shots of the arms coming in and doing things like putting these glasses on or holding glasses or even just sort of just surrounding him and being active in closer up shots, they used physical arms. And Alfred Molina nicknamed them after the Three Stooges. So you had Curly, Moe, and... oh, geez, my brain's gone. Curly, Moe, and what is the other stooge?
Oh, definitely can't help you, mate.
He's Googling
Iggy Pop. And he nicknamed the other one Flo because that was the name of the puppeteer who did all the sort of close-up motherly things like putting glasses on and that kind of thing. But yeah, they did a lot of practical for that effect.
Nice. They also give J.K. Simmons quite a bit more to do in this film, don't they? Does he overstay his welcome, or can you never have enough J. Jonah Jameson?
No, he doesn't overstay his welcome at all.
I generally want a petition for a sitcom around the Daily Bugle. I said it in the first bonus. I'm saying it again. The more the better, man. That guy's hilarious. The whole thing is like the way it interacts with all of the other workers there, and the more the better, I would say. What about you?
Oh, it's a bonus fact. It's a bonus fact. He's only gone and done it. It's a bonus fact. There's a deleted scene on the Blu-ray, which I believe you can watch on YouTube, of J.K. Simmons having a moment where he's in the Spider-Man suit and sort of pretending to do the webbing and things before the suit then gets stolen back again. He's just having a moment of play, pretending to be Spider-Man now that Spider-Man's gone.
Brilliant.
That's nice.
Shouldn't have been in the film, but it's brilliant to watch.
Did destroy me at the wedding scene, just as Mary Jane was skipping ahead a bit, runs from the altar, and he doesn't make eye contact with his wife. His eyes are purely fixated on the front of the church as he goes, "Call the caterer." She's like, "Why?" Yeah. And he's like, "Tell her to not open the caviar." Yeah. It's so good. Oh, I love him.
But that was one of the things about this film that I think has been done so well, and even with the first one, but like they've managed to create a world where it feels like every character you meet, no matter how short-lived they are, they're interesting and you kind of want to know more.
Yeah.
Like there's a bit way back at the beginning of the film where Peter Parker returns home to his apartment and the landlord's like, "Where's my rent?" Mm-hmm. And like you pop into that room for like a couple of minutes when the girl's like fucking making dinner and like I'm just I want to see more of those guys. Yep. And I think there's so many moments of that throughout this.
If promises were crackers, my daughter would be fat.
Yeah, exactly. Like some of the lines is just great. And yeah, I mean I think we spoke on it in the first one, and it's a bit of a cliche to say, but like New York City is such a character for this film in itself. Mm-hmm. And I just think that's done so well.
Yeah.
It's done so well in this.
Love it. Continuing on, Mary Jane becomes engaged to astronaut John Jameson, the son of Bugle editor J. Jonah Jameson. Peter suffers an emotional breakdown over his inability to balance his life and loses his powers due to the stress. He quits being Spider-Man, returns to his normal life and unsuccessfully attempts to reconcile with Mary Jane. He also finally confesses to Aunt May the truth about Uncle Ben's death. Aunt May forgives him, but the rise in the city's crime rates worries Peter. So now we get like this whole almost, I think it's like 30 to 35 minute stretch of the plot here with no big action set piece really, no large heroics. The film just dedicates itself scene after scene of coming up with different ways to shit on Peter Parker. Colin, were you ever bored during these sequences? Did it work in making you empathize and feel for Peter, or did it leave the film crying out for like a set piece or an action scene just to liven things back up again?
Not at all. Like I think like seeing the internal struggle that Peter Parker's character goes through is the film to me. And I think the balance of action to not action in this film is probably closer to what I would enjoy. I think there's enough action, and when it's done really, really well. But there's never a point where I was getting bored throughout the action sequences. I mean, don't get me wrong, there's a few moments where I think maybe about an hour in, there was a couple of scenes where I was like, oh, this feels like it's sort of starting to maybe veer in the direction of something I'm going to start losing interest in. But no, I would say I definitely wasn't bored at any point, and I wasn't screaming for action. Because I just thought it was a really good look into, like, the message of the film is, I think it's quite relatable to most people. Obviously, it's a friggin' superhero who loses his powers, but it's like the inner message, I think, is an important one, and they did it well.
Yeah, for sure. Rob, did you end up empathizing with Peter Parker?
I love this film, and I love what they do with Peter Parker. And that whole sequence where he gives up, it takes a skilled director and performer to pull off that raindrops falling on my head montage.
Yes.
And have it work. It ends in a freeze frame. Like, it's so well done. And this is still talked about widely as one of the best comic book films ever. And it has that really? Montage.
Yeah. Okay.
And that freeze frame. And I think those scenes are important because you've had a bit of Aunt May throughout it, but these moments where he's given up is when it really, her importance And they take a moment to stop and have these amazing character moments. Like the scene where I think there's one early on as well. Let me go through some Rosemary Harris highlights for me. But there's the scene early on at the party where she tries to give him money, and that always gets to me because I think I've had moments where my parents are trying to lend me money, and I never like taking money off my parents. And she's like, it's not much, just take it. And it's such a heartbreaking sort of moment when he knows that she's struggling as well. And then that moment of him telling her, because she blames herself, doesn't she? It's a scene I kind of like forget is there where they're at the grave, and she says, oh, it's my fault because you wanted to get the train, if I just let you do that and not told him to take you, he'd have been alive. And it's like that guilt that Peter feels, and having that lovely scene. He does that whole scene with her, then she just removes her hand. It's so...
Her removing the hands is so powerful.
Yeah, that was big.
Yeah, it does so much. And of course, there's the... I really love Rosemary Harris's ability to do a spurring speech. Right, so there's the moment where she's finally moving all of her stuff out the house. And she says, I believe there's a hero in all of us that keeps us honest, gives us strength, makes us noble, finally allows us to die with pride, even if we have to be steady and give up the things we love the most, even our dreams. So good.
Yep.
Such a good bit of dialogue, and she performs it in such a way that feels like genuine.
Yep.
And you root for her. Mm-hmm. Like, she's such a great performer, and I really like her sort of chemistry with Tobey Maguire in the film.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. She's wonderful. I think this whole stretch of the film, it starts off initially pretty comical. We get our Bruce Campbell cameo,
Groovy,
which is excellent. But then it's almost like, Jesus, like by the time it gets to the point of Harry slapping Peter at that event and humiliating him in front of everyone, I remember feeling the same in the cinema, and it made me feel the same here. Get ready to laugh, Colin. I got a little glassy-eyed. I think Maguire and Franco play that scene so perfectly. It becomes a genuinely tough scene to watch. No tears left my eyes, but it's definitely an emotional one.
No, I hear you there, mate.
So, moving on, requiring the isotope tritium to fuel his reactor, Octavius visits Harry to demand it. Harry agrees in exchange for Spider-Man, whom he still believes is responsible for his father's death. He tells Octavius to seek Peter, who Harry believes is friends with Spider-Man, but tells him not to harm Peter. Octavius locates Peter, tells him to find Spider-Man, and captures Mary Jane. So, Colin, I'll ask the same question I asked in the first film. How did you find Kirsten Dunst's Mary Jane Watson, and as a character too, did they do her justice?
Yeah, I think I maybe said in the first one that she was a little too maybe damsel in distress, I might have said throughout that one. I think that it was better in this one. I think she was better. I think they gave her a bit more to work with. I mean, she made some pretty horrible decisions as a human throughout this one, like that poor guy, old John.
Yeah.
You know, like but no, I think it was a good build from the first one, and it was a better performance.
Yep. Cool. Same to you, Rob.
Yeah, I agree. I think they gave her, out of the three characters, she felt like the one that had sort of grown up the most since the first film. She was she had more agency. She was more sure of, when she did want something, she was very sure about how she was going to communicate that. Even when sort of Peter tries to call her to apologise for being late, and he's that lovely shot, and the moment where the phone cuts out because he can't afford it.
Yeah.
But even her reactions building up to that moment where she's like talking to the answer machine, like, yeah, well, you had your chance, kind of thing. I just think she's got a lot more, I'd like to say strength. I wouldn't say she's sure of what she wants. She clearly is a bit mixed up. But in terms of how she doesn't let people walk over her in it, especially Peter Parker, like, rightly so, she holds him accountable for his shit.
Yeah, definitely. And I think it would feel a little bit too easy to maybe say she was just a damsel in distress in this film, because they do give her a lot to do. And
oh, definitely not.
And I think she's still great in the role. You know, I love that Mary Jane is now like a successful actress. You know, in terms of the character as well, they didn't go down the easy route of her being with Harry. I think in the hands of like a lesser screenwriter, that maybe would have been the more easy and more obvious angle. I mean, yes, her character, again, by the time the final set piece rolls around, you know, she's chained up and needing to be rescued. You know, I think it would have been nice just to have that one little moment maybe where she, you know, gives some welly, you know, against Doc Ock, you know, maybe figure out a way to escape or hurt him or damage the reactor, you know, before Spider-Man gets there. But in terms of, you know, performance, I have no issues as well. I think she's a fantastic actress. And luckily, she has some really, really nice chemistry with Tobey Maguire that I think is only heightened in this film as well.
Cool. I tell you what, there was some major fuck eyes going on at one point in this film. Oh, yeah. It was in the beginning when they meet in their back gardens, the same back gardens from the first one.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ, man.
Yeah. Really, really nice boy. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I was just about to say that line, Rob.
Oh boy, what?
Oh boy, yeah, no, that made me laugh. But no, if you go back and watch that, Kirsten Dunst has got fuck eyes to the max.
Yeah.
But then she's like, I'm seeing someone. Like straight afterwards, you're like, oh okay, great. And then next thing you know, she's getting married to him. But
go get him, Tiger.
Yeah.
So, as Spider-Man and Octavius battle, they fall onto a New York City subway train. Octavius sabotages it and leaves Peter to save the derailing train, which he does at a great physical toll. Octavius captures a weakened Peter and delivers him to Harry. Harry prepares to kill Spider-Man, only to be shocked to see Peter under the mask. Peter convinces Harry to direct him to Octavius's lair, as bigger things are at stake. Now, in my intro, I mentioned that this film might contain the best, in my opinion, best action set piece ever in a comic book movie. And yes, it was the subway train scene I was talking about. Is it hyperbole? Am I just exaggerating, or could I be right?
I think you could be right.
Yeah.
I mean, I haven't seen a lot of what you guys have seen, so I can only speak on where I'm at in my sort of journey through superhero movies. But it's by far one of the most memorable. Like that final image of him at the front of that train with all the webs, and his masks off and the people in the back. Yeah, it's great.
Rob,
you've got to have some commentary facts for this one, haven't you?
Maybe.
I hope so.
Maybe I do.
I want to know your opinion as well.
All right, well, I'll give my opinion first, and I'll save my lungs for the trumpet in a minute. I do love this sequence. It was the only thing in the sort of 2.1 version of the film that they did that I felt the extra footage was actually quite good. There was just a load of little extra moments of Peter having to save people and things being a bit closer to the,
okay,
more people were put in harm's way, which I guess is, once you've put two people in harm's way, do you need any more? But there's just a few little more action beats in the sequence. In terms of other action sequences in comic book films, I honestly can't think of anything. My mind's gone completely blank. In terms of what could be better.
Yeah, like the fact that he tries out like 2 or 3 things before he realises how to do it. And he has that, and you know that the time is ticking because the train's about to hit the... It's like, yeah, it's great. It's,
I can think of a few, but I'm not sure if we can mention them.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of where we are at the moment, it's up there with the Battle of New York sequence from Avengers, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I there were some moments in Civil War I liked the last one when it was those three going out. That's got to be up there for me, but that might just be sort of recency bias because I'm thinking of ones that I've watched over the last few weeks. But it was great. Yeah, there's been some great ones though. It's not a standout winner for me, and I'm sure I've got plenty more to come as well.
Plenty more to come.
Yeah.
So I was hoping that would happen.
Audio commentary facts. So as mentioned earlier, Tobey Maguire's brothers were the 2 boys who give back his mask at the end of the scene. How that come about is they visited the set and Tobey Maguire asked Sam Raimi if they could have parts. And Raimi was very happy to oblige. and joked that they changed the scripted lines that they were given, and also commented how that's something that Tobey Maguire would often do, and Tobey jokes, it's in the blood.
Nice.
Love it.
Also a Joey Diaz cameo.
Yes,
on the train.
very odd. But yeah, he pops up in a couple of things every now and then. Oh, Joey. So they battle again as the nuclear reaction starts threatening the city. Peter reveals his identity and persuades Octavius to let his dream go for the greater good. Octavius commands the tentacles to obey him and sacrifices himself to destroy the experiment. Peter Jane sees Peter's true identity, which he says is why they cannot be together. So, Colin, has Sam Raimi used all of his tricks in his book by the time we reach this final battle? Does it have the same impact as the final fight scene, let's say, between like Green Goblin and Spider-Man at the end of the first film?
I don't know if it has the same impact as the final fight scene when it's Spider-Man versus the Green Goblin, because I think that was really like where the film peaked for me. And I think after that train sequence, it's like that was sort of the peak, I guess. But it didn't get to a point where I was like, I'm not interested anymore. I found it all I was still engaged. I was still enjoying it. But like dynamically, I think it needed to come down a bit, because then you're falling into this like, okay, we get it, chill out.
Yeah. I agree. Rob, any thoughts on this final fight scene?
Yeah, I think it needed to be short and sweet, really. I think the battle was more for... The difference is with Norman is that there's no sort of pleading with him for there's any soul to save at this point. But he knows that Otto is a good man. So the battle becomes for his soul, really, doesn't it? And for his humanity. And I think that's much more interesting than having it be that he beats him physically.
Yep.
But I love the whole, like, listen to me now. There's a slightly partridge.
It was a little partridge. Rob, great minds think alike, because I'll admit, this fight scene isn't as good as the subway fight scene, but it's not trying to be. I've got it literally noted here as well. This scene is about the redemption of Otto Octavius, who, after realizing what he's done, in his own words, he says he will not die a monster. So this sequence really works for me. I really like the reveal of Mary Jane finding out about Peter. I think Kirsten Dunst plays that moment wonderfully, where everything sort of clicks. Speaking of, there's a lot of people in this film that kind of hint that they know that Peter is Spider-Man. Am I going crazy?
Yeah.
Like, you got that dude at the Daily Bugle who gives Peter a really weird look when talking about Spider-Man.
Yeah, I heard Spider-Man was there.
Yeah, it's like he has his suspicions, I think. But is it just me, or is the film also hinting that Aunt May might be clued up or have her suspicions as well?
I think so.
Does she know or not?
It's the way that she sort of just randomly brings up, me and Henry both love Spider-Man. We wish he'd come back.
We don't see him as much as we used to.
Yeah. But I also remember when I watched the first Spider-Man the first time, I thought by the end of it, Mary Jane kind of already knew, because they do hint at that quite a bit. But then I found in this one, even though towards the end she's like, "Oh, there's a part of me that always knew," but that felt a little inconsistent to me in this one, because there were a lot of moments throughout where, if she had some sort of inkling, then why wouldn't she have ever brought it up to to Peter Parker when they're having these deep conversations about why they should or shouldn't be together? Like, to me, if you've got that inkling, then bring it up.
Yeah, it's true.
I love her gasp, like you said, like the performance moment.
Oh, that was great. Yeah,
where she it all becomes clear, and it's like a weight's lifted off her. Like, oh, it's not because he doesn't love me; it's because he loves me very much. It's
because he loves me is the reason we're not together. Yeah.
And I love the little comedy moment as well when he's holding the building up and he's like, "Hi, this is really heavy."
Yeah. Love it. Meanwhile, Harry is visited by a vision of his father in a mirror, pleading for Harry to avenge his death. Enraged, Harry shatters the mirror, inadvertently revealing a secret room containing his father's Green Goblin equipment. On her wedding day... Oh, okay, over to you.
Audio commentary facts. Oh, I've got to find it now. When filming the scene in which Peter is buying flowers to give to MJ, it's in sort of the montage leading up to him going to try and get to the theatre, before we see Bruce Campbell. Willem Dafoe was walking home to his apartment and bumped into them all and said, "Well, what are you doing here?" That's my best Dafoe. And it was actually that chat when he was chatting to Raimi and the crew, and he said, "Oh, I love," he was talking about how much he loved being involved in the first film, that they then wrote into the script a way to have him involved in the second film. And that's purely because he bumped into him.
I love that. Carrying on. On her wedding day, Mary Jane abandons John at the altar and runs to Peter's apartment. After they kiss, they hear police sirens, and Mary Jane encourages him to go help as Spider-Man. Colin, I'm pretty sure you've already seen Spider-Man 3, but I know it's probably been a long time.
Very long time.
So does this leave you pumped to see Franco returning as a villain this time?
No, because I remember seeing Spider-Man 3 in the cinema and not enjoying it at all. But that was a long time ago, and I've rewatched films, from that far back and had a completely different opinion on it. So, I mean, honestly, I think if this end part, or mainly the Harry Osborn throwing the mirror and finding the little, I feel like that was a bit too much. I think they could have played that more like a sort of post-credit scene where it's like a little bit more of a, we're going to leave you thinking about that more than
actually
this
showing
is exactly
you
what's coming up.
Yeah, I see that.
And I don't know what they did when Mary Jane's running away from the wedding, but she looked like she was glowing. It's like that kind of, like that dreamy...
It confused... I can remember seeing it in the cinema and it confusing me, being like, oh, it's a dream.
Yeah, it just seemed a little unusual, and I don't really know what they were trying to make us think with that. But again, here we go. Rob knows.
Audio commentary facts.
Help us, Rob.
So that was the brainchild of Laura Ziskin, who is one of the producers on the film. And originally, Raimi was going to have it that you realise that where she was when... It's obvious where she was when she don't turn up at the wedding. But it was originally going to be, the J. Jonah moment of cancel the caviar. And then cut to Peter in his room and her being revealed behind him without the running sequence. But Raimi fell in love with it once they shot it. It wasn't one of his ideas that was storyboarded or anything like that, but he went with it to sort of appease the producer, I guess, and then just fell in love with it. Really liked it as a shot.
Interesting.
Fair enough.
And Rob, that last shot of Mary Jane watching Peter swing away, it's an interesting one performance-wise, isn't it? It's quite non-orthodox when it comes to ending a superhero film, that being our final frame.
It reminds me of The Graduate.
Yes.
You know how... I don't know if you've seen The Graduate, Colin.
No, I haven't. No.
Well, I'm going to spoil the end of The Graduate.
That's all good.
So there's this big, long build-up of, will she give up everything? And she's, again, at a wedding when a lead character sort of bursts in and declares their love and convinces her to run away with him and not get married. And they run onto the nearest bus and they're sat at the back of the bus. And it's a two-shot of both of them. And they're both looking elated to start off with, but then there's that moment of the smile dropping and now what? And that's what this does so perfectly, that she's got it's this big punch the air moment. He's like triumphantly swinging through the city and it just cuts back to her like, oh.
I'm in love with Spider-Man.
And I've also just ran out on a wedding. Have I made the right decision?
Yeah.
It's a wonderful...
And then meanwhile, Peter Parker's fucking like yelling and whooping and shit.
He's oblivious. He's always whooping throughout this film.
Yeah, he loves it.
Yeah, I really, really, really find that last shot really interesting. I love it very much. Anything else you boys want to discuss? Have I missed anything out? Any other cameos I may have missed?
There are a fair few cameos in this film, so I'm going to go through some of the lesser ones. Fans of Community might have noticed Joel McHale as the person who works in the bank.
Got to be pre-hair transplant.
I did
or something,
think that.
right?
I
was like, he's had some work done, hasn't he?
That
on
gold
the old,
coin he nicked went towards paying for some new follicles.
Exactly.
There's also, this is a very, very deep oozat, as we like to say on our other podcasts. The actor that is playing alongside Mary Jane in The Importance of Being Earnest, did you recognise him?
No.
So he plays Terry Crawley, who is very prominent in the pilot episode of The Shield.
Oh, is he the one they kill at the end?
No, I'd have to go back and watch the pilot. It's been a long time since I've seen that.
Interesting.
So yeah, I spotted him today and I was like, I know him. I had to look it up. But I think the cameo that you was referring to is Excelsior.
Oh, that was a quick
very
one, wasn't it?
quick one.
Yeah, well, it wasn't always going to be that way.
Oh.
So
Trumpets?
in this, what's that?
I thought trumpets were coming. I thought you...
Oh,
okay.
No. So I did a bit of additional research on this one that didn't involve... Actually, I got this fact from IMDb fact. IMDb fact.
Got a melody to it, okay.
So he was seen saving a woman from falling rubble during the Spider-Man vs. Doc Ock, the first fight that they have involving Rosemary Harris. Originally, he was going to be he stole that guy's pizza guy from the opening.
That line really made me laugh, by the way.
It's a great line, yeah. I can imagine Stan doing it, but I'm kind of glad that it was a bit dialed back. So yeah, talking about that scene as well, where the first fight with Spider-Man and Doc Ock, when Aunt May has been kidnapped. Audio commentary fact. I won't do all my audio commentary facts. I can see Jules panicking. Rosemary Harris did all of her own wire work for the film. So she didn't want a stunt person. She said, she famously said, and Raimi looked back on this fondness, she said, I want to fly again, Sam. And would often want to redo the takes just so that she could do it. And her husband come to watch as they sort of land in the street at the end of that scene. And apparently he would just sort of have panic attacks and couldn't watch and cover his eyes constantly for fear that his sort of thrill-seeker wife was going to fall to her death.
Was it ever mentioned in any of the commentaries? I think I read this earlier on, that from that beginning sequence where Peter's trying to deliver the pizza, as he's saving those kids from that truck or the bus or whatever, he throws the pizzas on that balcony, and a guy's about to take a slice and he webs it out of his hand. Is that one of the screenwriters or one of the producers?
It's Sam Spiegel is his name.
Right.
And he works a lot with Sam Raimi. I believe he was in a lot of his earlier films. And it's like an old friend.
Well, then there you...
But the thing about Raimi is, he seems like, in everything I've seen him in, and just the way he talks in general, you just get a sense that he's a very, very nice guy. And he's very giving. What I took away from the audio commentary fact was that Sam Raimi gives many of his storyboard artists the chance to be second unit directors. And he said it's hard enough getting a shot as a director in Hollywood and for someone to give you a chance. So he always tries to give storyboard artists or people involved in the production a chance to shoot a second unit chunk of the film, so they have that credit and can go into it if they need to, and have got more
Love
sort
that.
of kudos, I guess.
Bless you, Mr. Raimi. So
yeah, he's lovely.
Let's maybe jump into our ratings of the film. So, Colin, do you want to start? What are we giving Spider-Man 2 out of 5?
4.5.
Very, very good. Very high. Maybe joint with Avengers and... Is that it? Guardians.
Guardians, yeah.
Okay, I don't know how I would have felt if you gave this a 5 and you'll give your first film to a non-MCU film.
Yeah, no, I think the only thing that really knocked it back was just the few little... It's so that little ending bit with the Harry Osborn. There was a few other bits in there, but I mean, 4.5 is a good score.
It's a cracking score.
Like, yeah.
Especially when we know how high in regards to you a 5 is. So yes, most definitely.
Yeah.
Robert Trott, out of 5? Not asking you, what are you out of 5?
Oh, 5.
We know that's a 5. But Spider-Man 2, what's that out of 5?
For me, I've said before that I think a 5 out of 5 goes to a film that you have no issues with, that you just love. There's nothing about it that you hate. And for me to still love this film, despite the little plot contrivances and the things that don't add up and the holes in logic.
Is this the first 5?
It's not the first.
Is it not? Okay.
No, I'm giving it a 5.
Nice.
I gave Captain America Winter Soldier a 5.
Oh, it's good.
Oh, shit. Okay. I don't remember you giving that a 5. I thought it would have been a bit more buzz to hear a 5. But
yeah, this is
George
definitely a 5 for me.
George is giving it a 5.
Of course he is.
There's no point in asking him. He gave Iron Man 3 a 5. This should be a 6.
This should be a 6.
It's a pure comic book movie through and through. We have an amazing villain, some really nice arcs. You know, with great power comes great responsibility. In the first movie is obviously an important line of dialogue, but that one line is the arc of this film. It is Peter's arc in this sequel, as he pretty much throws away his powers and decides to live a life, not as Spider-Man, but only to find that New York is maybe not that great without him. It's a sacrifice.
And he does it to Uncle Ben.
Exactly. Yes. It's a sacrifice, sure, as well, you know, going back to being Spider-Man. And as we see at the end, Mary Jane sort of realises that too. This is known to be a classic for a reason. Yeah, it's a 5. I think it had to be. It's a stunning film. So, during our little toilet break earlier on, Rob mentioned he's not as confident about this week's trivia.
Oh.
So I think it's time for the trivia section.
Let's go.
You know too much for your own good.
Now that's what I call using the old head.
I'm not too sure about mine either. I'm not even entirely sure as to whether it is trivia. I'm sure it is. Of course, yeah, you know, I take that back. It is. So who's going first?
You sound so confident, George.
Yeah.
You're running through the head. What the definition of trivia is.
There's no filter with my brain. You just hear all the confidence and doubt all go in and out of each other within 30 seconds.
Yeah.
So
you can go first.
I believe in you, George. I believe in you.
Does that mean I'm going first, or
you're going first, mate?
Yeah, because last time I did my whole tirade of audio commentary, and you had to come up with a different one. So I think it's only fair.
Yeah, you go first this time.
Okay, thank you very, very much. So, along with when this film was released, Sony thought it would be a good idea to actually do a novelization of the film as well. And but I think they released it the same time that the film was released as well. They showed this novel writer the film and the script, and they said, but we want you to go more in depth, have fun with it. Sam Raimi helped a little bit along the way as well, and just provide that extra depth. And in a lot of the scenes, chapters in the book as well, you can actually hear the internal monologues of different characters as well. And I read this trivia before watching the film, and I found it actually changed my viewing experience of the film. So I've noted here a couple of things that are in the book, and see if it maybe changes your perception on different things within Spider-Man 2 as well. So little things like when Dr. Octavius Otto Octavius first tries to do his fusion reactor experiment and it all goes wrong, and then suddenly, Peter vanishes and then Spider-Man turns up. That scene is told from the perspective of Harry Osborn. And when he sees Spider-Man turns up, his brain, he's so consumed with vengeance, it doesn't go to Spider-Man's here to help. He's like, Spider-Man caused this. So it does a nice little flip on that scene as well. There's a moment where, Doc Ock is hanging Aunt May from the roof of that building, and just as he drops her, he's actually thinking he's doing her a favour because she's such an old and just elderly woman that he thinks he's actually doing her a favour by giving her a quick death, as he resents the idea of people having slow and painful deaths as they become elderly and things like that. Little things like Bruce Campbell's usher actually had a name. He's called Waldo. I think that I don't know why that tickled me. But that scene initially played longer, I guess, in the script than it does in the novelization as well. It gets to the point where Peter becomes so enraged by him, he webs Waldo's foot to the floor. But then as he walks in, Mary Jane is receiving her standing ovation, and she sees Peter actually come in right at the end instead of it being an empty seat throughout it all as well. And I do have a couple more. Mary Jane's parents have actually split up since the first film. When they meet at the garden at the beginning of the film, she's there just visiting her mum. Her dad has just vanished while she's giving him the fuck eyes and things like that. But then the Doc Ock's tentacle arms, you hear them talk to Doc Ock throughout the whole novel as well. They're always telling him what to do and things like that. And interestingly, they all call him father as well, which I think is a really, really interesting little note. And at the end, when Doc Ock is drowning as he dies, he actually drowns in the water. The water is also superheated because of the fusion reactor being in the water as well. So it kind of boils him alive at the same time. And a second, just before he dies, obviously he's not wearing his protective goggles anymore, as we kind of see in the film as well, as he floats away. He stares into the fusion reactor as it's in the water as well, and it boils his eyeballs and liquefies them as well. Nice. So there's no way I think Sam Raimi could have maybe got away with that. So yeah, little things in the novel.
Not if it's a 12.
Yeah, in the novelization of Spider-Man 2. It'd be quite interesting to read it. But yeah, it added a couple of little bits to the film.
That is cool. And we kind of didn't really touch much on the fact that, Dr. Octopus literally kills himself at the end to
of course.
Save. I think that was a really good bit. And whatever they do, man, you can't bring him back. You can't bring back Doc Ock in the MCU. And if they do, it's got to be the same dude acting. I mean, it would be strange if they did weird. Anyway, but just please tell me they haven't done, because nothing would surprise me.
The villains in Spider-Man, they do them very carefully, and
okay.
I won't say any more because there's some nice villains coming up when it comes to Spider-Man.
Okay.
But I will also say there was a lovely little moment in the novelization. I actually read that chapter. I found like a PDF of it online of when he's first doing the fusion reactor experiment as well.
Christ, is this a fact or a podcast?
Oh, I know.
Hey,
Jesus, man. This is a bonus episode,
this
isn't
is
it?
trivia. You want trivia. But also, along with all of the journalists there watching the experiment as well, there is a scientist called Hank Pym. And who's done that? Was that Colin? I haven't won this one then, have I? He's fucking snoring throughout it. I'm so offended.
Well, I mean, come on, mate. This is the trivia section. I mean, let's like keep it to a few minutes.
All right. So Hank Pym's there, and when shit starts going down, Harry notices that suddenly he's not there, and then he wonders how he got away so quick. And obviously, he's fucking Ant-Man. There's my trivia. It's too long. Fuck you. Go on, Rob.
Maybe we could order you the book, and then we'll do a bonus episode where you just read the book to everyone.
Probably be shorter than my trivia then.
It'll be like, it was published by Penguin.
No, that was good, man.
Ah, thanks.
No.
Can I go?
Don't sound so defeated, because that was really good trivia. You just banged on too much
throughout it.
Let's be. I snored after 5 minutes of you giving us the trivia, It's like you gave us 70 examples of bits from the book. We get it, man. The book's cool. The trivia's cool. Rob, it's your turn. Let's go.
Cool. So, as we discussed
Never
earlier,
been more confident giving trivia. Because he knows I fucked it. Go on, sorry.
So one of our dear listeners gave us the opportunity to discuss films and things that meant a lot to us growing up. And I said I loved Superman and Superman 2. And it would seem that I wasn't alone in that, because Sam Raimi discussed at length how much the work of both Richard Donner and Richard Lester on those first two films, but especially Richard Donner, had a profound effect on him in terms of how he wanted to approach making a comic book film. And you can see that in the first Spider-Man. You can even see that in Darkman, his own comic book hero that he made before being given Spider-Man. But there are many comparisons that could be made to Superman 2, the Christopher Reeve film. Have you seen the film, Colin?
I haven't. No.
Oh, well, this may fall slightly flat.
Well, as long as you keep it under 5 minutes and I don't fall asleep, I think you're all good, mate.
Cool. So it's a film that Raimi himself says he loves. It mainly focuses on Superman craving a normal life. He realizes that he can't be with Lois and have her be safe, and he just wants a human life with her. So he reaches out to his father figure, much like Peter does with Uncle Ben, and gives up his powers, much like Peter does in this film. So once he has that chance to give that up, the whole film is about the struggle. What are you laughing at, George?
George, I don't know, I think you missed it, but George did start snoring into the microphone.
I did miss it.
Oh, okay, yeah.
I'm so sorry.
But I'm really enjoying it, mate. You carry on.
So there were many other moments within Spider-Man 2 that harken back to and sort of hint at Superman as a influence. There's a moment where Peter does the classic ripping open the shirt to reveal the Spider-Man logo before he takes off after Mary Jane's performance. Even the opening title sequence that was lovingly designed by Alex Ross, who's a famous comic book artist, recapping that first film and sort of reminding audiences of
really
everything
nice,
that's
actually.
come
More films
before.
should do that.
Yeah, I agree. That was really nice.
But that is something that Superman 2 does as well. When you're watching Superman 2, it has the credits are flying past the screen, but you also have these sort of video snippets of the first film to sort of bring you back up to where we were at the end of that film. And it just really interests me how those films are sort of obviously influenced Sam Raimi and sort of bled into how he approached a sequel himself.
I like that, mate. That one woke me up a little bit, actually.
I'm done.
Feeling a little
I'm
sleepy. Yeah, Rob, you get the point, mate.
Oh, I actually did like George's trivia. I was not
I
expected.
did as well.
I wasn't expected to
It banged on a little bit. I admit it. Fine.
But
They were both good. And you both said that you weren't confident, but I don't know why, because I thought they were both solid trivias.
To round this off, do you want a little bonus trivia?
Well,
This one's short, I promise. Yeah,
Is it?
and it
Okay,
was going to
go
be
on.
my trivia until I found details that they released a novel.
An essay.
Now I'm realising I fucked up. So, when Jonah Jameson offers the scruffy man $50 for the Spider-Man costume he found, he replies, "I could get more for it on eBay." Well, actually, in 2001, 4 Spider-Man costumes were actually stolen from the set of the first Spider-Man film whilst they were filming it.
Shit.
They were eventually recovered 18 months after they first went missing. There was a massive investigation into it, and it resulted in the arrest of a former movie studio security guard and one of his accomplices. Columbia Pictures offered a $25,000 reward for information leading to the return of the costumes, and movie memorabilia experts actually estimated at the time each costume was valued at around $50,000 each.
That was good trivia, man. I like that one.
should have gone with that.
Maybe.
Should have definitely gone with that.
Audio commentary bonus. Audio commentary facts.
It sounded like that got away with you for a little bit.
It did a little bit, yeah. We should explain, right, to the listeners that my microphone is barely functional. So in order to do this podcast, I have to have a delay on. So I hear what I say twice. It's a wonder I say anything at all with any kind of clarity. So shove your shit trivia up your arse and let me get on with me audio commentary.
See, this is why I love the trivia. Eventually, it just brings out this
hostile.
It brings up the rage.
This anger. George is just defeated right now. He's a defeated man after his. Yeah,
I got halfway through my trivia, and even I'm like, I'm so bored.
You just wanted to melt your eyes out with the fusion reactor. Early drafts of the script had Black Cat play a part, who is sort of like Spider-Man's love interest. If Mary Jane is Peter Parker's, Black Cat is Spider-Man's. But they felt that they needed to make room to focus on Dr. Octopus. And similarly, which I thought was quite a interesting fact, that Dr. Octopus was originally going to be in the original film. And they did the same there. They cut him out to allow focus on Green Goblin. Additionally, when filming the backyard scene with all of the fuck eyes, loads of the neighbourhood kids swarmed to meet Tobey Maguire, and they're all wearing Spider-Man outfits and sort of giving him pictures of things, and he stayed there for hours. And Sam Raimi said that he admired how long Tobey Maguire stayed to sign autograph for the kids.
Can we go to bed yet?
Yeah.
Oh, you can talk.
Blooming novelisation.
You've already got the point, Rob.
Yeah. He's listened to 3 commentaries and he's panicking that he's not being able to get his worth on this episode.
I've not watched 6 hours worth of Spider-Man 2 this week for nothing.
We need a solo Rob audio commentary from Spider-Man 2 episode where he just
bonus for the bonus episode.
I'm brilliant but lazy.
Come on, Rob, one more. Bring it home.
Yep, this is the last one, mate.
Okay, Willem Dafoe played a prank on Alfred Molina. He didn't know that he was going to cameo in the film at all. Alfred Molina was brought onto set to see Willem Dafoe wearing the Doc Ock tentacles. For a moment, thought that he'd be replaced. They realised it was Willem Dafoe and found it very funny. And I think you can watch that on the Blu-ray.
And it's on YouTube as well.
Yeah.
We will put it in the
Sweet.
episode description. So yes, let's bring it home. Thank you everyone for listening to our bonus episode number 2. If you haven't already, please review or rate the podcast wherever you listen to it. It all helps. So I'm not really going to set up the next episode. We're still on track. We're still on schedule to do Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 for you all. Will Colin get his first 5-star rated film? We shall see. But then in a couple of weeks, we will have Spider-Man 3 for you as well. So Colin, say bye.
Goodbye.
Rob, say bye.
Bye.
Stay safe, stay well, and stay nerdy, everyone. Bye.
Got away from you a bit, that, didn't it?
Next time we meet, let it be in peace and friendship.
This is as far as you're going to get tonight.
Such valuable stuff. All in a night's work.
Sweet dreams, little friend.